Okay, so it is 7:26 in the morning, and I pretty much only have had maybe like 3 hours of sleep or less. I don't know. I can't even remember when I fell asleep, but it hasn't been that much sleep. But I'm having a hard time falling back asleep, even though I'm so exhausted right now. I'm so tired. But I just wanted to come on here and record because I realized that I never even got to share my dream, because I had wrote everything down in my notes, but I didn't get to like voice memo it or anything like that. So I want to share this dream because this dream was not only very symbolic, but it was like when I woke up from out of the dream, I literally heard the Holy Spirit tell me so loud, like so loud and crystal clear, telling me, are you ready? Like, get ready. And, here's the thing. I have been listening, the Lord has led me to a few prophetic voices over here on this YouTube space, who consistently give out pretty accurate words for the season that I've been in. But sometimes I get a little frustrated. I get really just like, I don't want to hear not another word. I don't want to hear anything else. I just want to see this thing come forth into manifestation. And I'm not talking about the manifestation where, you're talking about the law of attraction. No, that's witchcraft. I'm talking about the manifestation of God's word. So let me make that clear. But anyways, so I'm just gonna, voice memo my dream. And then I'll kind of just give the revelation that I believe the Lord was giving to me from the dream. Because the season that I'm in right now, or that I've been in for the last, I'm going to say almost 4 years now. I've been in a very intense wilderness season. So this dream was me getting ready to go on my very first flight. And what's interesting about this is that I have not had any plane ride experiences in my adulthood. I only rode the plane one time in my life, and that was when I was 12, and I was in middle school. I was in marching band. I played the flute and was also in color guard and all of that stuff. And my school was the only middle school that got invited to a marching band competition all the way in Hawaii with high school bands. We were literally one of the only middle school bands that was competing against high school bands. So that's how good that my marching band in middle school used to be. My music teacher was very dedicated to music, and it was actually because of him that I grew a passion and a love for music that I hadn't had discovered yet. Because, I actually grew up in a very musical background as it is. My dad, he's a musician. My grandpa was a musician. So all I know is music. But anyway, that's beside the point. So, I was getting ready in my dream to, take my first flight. I was preparing. I was, trying to shop around for clothes. I was trying to make sure that everything was in order to make it to the airport on time and make sure that I had the right ticket and everything like that. And I remember my mom being with me, and my mom is very, very anointed, very prophetic. So I think that's obviously very symbolic that she was with me during the preparation time, but she was not, it was very interesting about my dream is that I was by myself during this whole thing. I was getting ready to go to this destination by myself. Not even my kids were with me in my dream. So that's even more significant as to that this journey that the Lord has had me on is, concerning me. The Lord has done everything. He's been doing everything thus far for me, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but so, my mom was driving me to get my stuff ready, and then I remember this part in my dream, which, hold on, let me see if I can actually pull up in my notes here as I'm recording to read what I wrote down, because it's a lot. So give me 1 second. Let me pull it up here in my notes. Okay, hold on. Here we go. So I'm just gonna read because it's a lot. So I said I just had a dream, and it was a 2-part dream. See, I forgot about that. But it was a 2-part dream. The first dream, let me just continue reading. So it continued, and this was the first time that I actually had a dream like this. So in this dream, I was getting ready to go to the airport, and I was looking around for clothes, and I was shopping for clothes and trying to find all of the right stuff. I was trying to make sure that I had all of the right bags for the airport that would be approved, and I even had my mom drive me to the airport, and it seemed like I was by myself, so I mentioned that already. And I said, I don't think anyone else was with me, it was just me. And I was talking to my mom, letting her know and telling her how nervous and scared that I was, and that I hope to find my terminal on time. I think that's what they call it in an airport. I haven't even Googled it. So I apologize if that's not what it's called. But, the gate thing. To board your actual plane. I was trying to make sure, that I was going to find it on time. And my mom was reassuring me that everything was going to be fine. And, to keep her updated or whatever, I don't know. So I get to the airport, and there was this security check that I had to practice to go to before my actual flight. So it kind of felt like it was more of a background check. It was just very interesting. Before you get hired on with a job or something, they have to make sure that you have a background check. Make sure, that you're good. So it kind of felt like that, but in my dream, it was more of a security process where there was just one room, and there was a bunch of surgeons. It was very interesting. And it was a surgery room. And it's weird because as I was writing down in my notes at the timing that I did at this part, when I was talking about the surgery part, because I wrote this down at 2:17 p.m. I literally happened to look on the TV screen, and as I'm seeing this particular part about there being a bunch of surgeons, and it was like a surgery room, and I literally look on the TV screen as I'm saying that, and there was a video on YouTube of a surgery room, and I was like, wow, okay, well, that's interesting, because as I'm saying that, there was literally a clip of surgeons. So but there was surgeons, and they were like sterilizing all of their tools and their equipment, and getting ready to perform people's surgeries. Like, it was kind of like the back room for all of the surgeons. So there was like printers that were there, and it kind of looked like a break room, but it wasn't. And there was like all this stuff set up there. Like, there was like hundreds of surgeons in there, and they were all like coming and going in the room, to grab their different tools, and they would take off. And then I saw all sorts of things, and I went back there, and it was kind of like I was like being shown everything back there. I was like in there. One of the doctors was like pointing to the things, showing me, this is where you come in and sterilize your tools. And he was just kind of like explaining to me the process of what they did back there. And it was just very interesting. And I was like getting ready to do some sort of like test. Like it was kind of like a last test before I could board my plane in the morning. So this was like, in my dream, this was like the day before I actually got to board my plane. And so I did everything that was required of me. I studied, and then I remember asking one of the doctors, it was something about like one of I think it was like the plane ticket cost. Because somehow, this part kind of confuses me, because I didn't have a ticket, but I did at the same time. So I don't know if I was asking on behalf of my mom, to have her come with me. Because that's kind of what I'm feeling. Like, that's what I'm sensing. And the doctor was telling me, well, the tickets are already priced at $1,000 per person. And I was just like, oh yeah, no, that's too expensive. It's too late. So I don't know. It was just weird at that part. But I was just trying to take precaution and trying to get a ticket. And I'm assuming, so I'm like rereading. That it was maybe for someone else to come with me, but it doesn't make sense that I already had a ticket. And I was already going to be arriving at the airport the very next morning. So here comes the next morning in my dream, right? And I get to the airport, going back to, when my mom dropped me off to the airport. I'm trying to find, I'm just trying to figure out, I'm going through all the security checks. But then I ended up realizing that I actually skipped going through this security check, and I went straight to find my gate or terminal, whatever you call it, but I was having a hard time finding it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I was afraid of. I was getting anxious. I was so scared. I was worried. I was like literally frantically looking to find someone that could give me direction to tell me if they can help me find my terminal gate on time. And so I thought at first I had found the terminal, because you know how sometimes at the airport I think they have multiple different letters, and they have like two letters or like, I don't know, like everything is like lettered differently. So like there's like two terminals with the same exact letter but different number, if that makes sense. I don't know. From my airport experience, I was only 12, so I don't really remember all that much, but I think so. it was just like really confusing. But so anyways, I looked at my ticket, and it turned out that I was at the wrong one. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry now. So I hurried and I grabbed my luggage, and I thanked the person for telling me, because I had eventually asked someone, and they told me, oh, you're actually at the wrong gate, but it's, just right down, it's like right around the corner. So I thanked the person, and I was like, otherwise I would have gotten on the wrong plane. So I started running, and I'm like trying to like hurry up, because my worst fear in my dream was me not making it onto my plane on time, or ending up on the wrong plane. So I started running at this point, and in the middle of me running, I found this girl ended up running besides me, and she kind of reminded me of this friend from this old church that I used to attend, like back in, oh my gosh, like this was like when I was like ended up meeting her until I had my first son. And so she was like, I don't know, I happened to notice that she was running beside me, and turns out that she was on the same plane. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Not really sure. The Lord hasn't really given me anything about that in particular just yet. But anyways, so she was running next to me with her luggage, and we were boarding the same plane, and she and I just kind of like started making small talk, and I was like, hey, are you going to this plane? She was like, yeah, I've been trying to find it too. And she was like, and I finally found it. So we're both like, oh my gosh, yes, like, kind of like tag teaming buddies, like, yes, like we found the plane together on time. So we were just like rushing to get on the plane already, because everyone was already inside of where they are about to seat people. So there's this like long runway, and we were like running along the runway, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're like seconds from missing this plane. And I start seeing this other plane closing the gate, and I thought, oh my gosh, I hope this is not our plane. But it wasn't, thankfully. It was another plane. And so we both arrive, and then there was this other lady, or another lady, also running behind. So she came up right behind us, like by mere seconds, literally. And we were just kind of like all relieved that we made it there on time, like literally right on time. Like I think it was like on the dot. And I give them my ticket, and they put my name on the little screen. I guess they had this like little screen with my seating number. And this girl, her name is Allie, from my old church. She ended up just like going all the way to the back of the plane. And we didn't get to like say anything else to each other. So I didn't see her after this point in my dream. And I'm just kind of like, oh, well, that's interesting. So I'm looking for my seat, and then I forgot that I realized, that I had my luggage. Like I never even got to drop my luggage off, at the little area where people drop their luggages off to get boarded onto the plane. I just kind of like left it there in the front entrance, where you start walking into the plane. So I finally found my seat, and I'm sitting down next to this older Hispanic looking lady, dressed really nice, and she was with her mom. And I noticed that the plane seats were not like your average plane seats. I believe that this was first class that I was sitting in, because it was towards almost it was like towards the front of the plane, and the seats were so nice, and it was like what it looks like at a lounge area where there was like all these TVs, like this nice looking TV, this beautiful looking table, like this little table that was set up there. And it was almost like literally, there's this restaurant that I used to love going to called Culinary Dropout, and it just reminded me of this restaurant because the seats there was like the kind of like this plush, like I don't know how to explain it, but it was like this really nice looking luxurious feel and luxurious seat, and it was like a U shape kind of, so it wasn't even like an actual airplane seat. This was like a straight up lounge chair, like a lounge couch. But I sat down, and oh, by the way, I wanted to take note too because I never got to in my notes, but this color was like a deep purple, like a purple that literally just is like a regal color, like royalty color. That's what that reminds me of. So anyway, back to my dream. So I sat down, and it was just me and these three ladies on the side that we were sitting on, and then on the other side was maybe like one small family or something, I don't know. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really nice. And it took me by surprise because I thought, I was going to be squished on the airplane, but my seating there was so much space. And the lady, so get this, you guys, in my dream. So the lady that I actually ended up sitting next to, she ended up being a pastor of a church in the state, which I'm not going to name this state, but I was going to a specific state, and she was also headed there. Her and her mom ended up being pastors of a church in that specific state. And she asked me, oh, are you going to blank state? And I said, yeah, isn't this plane going to such and such state? Because yeah, I'm going. And she said, okay, yes, because she was telling me like her little backstory, that she's from Florida, and just telling me like her life story basically. And she said that her family had left Florida to go open up this church in that particular state that we were both heading to. And I was just like, wow, we were just like making small talk. And then I realized that my phone wasn't on airplane mode yet, because I had overheard on the intercom to please make sure that your phone is on airplane mode until further notice. And so for some reason, I couldn't find the airplane mode to throw my phone on. Like, it was just the weirdest thing. Like, I was going to my settings, and I was like, why can't I find the airplane mode? And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, I left my luggage right there as you come inside of the plane, because I saw like other people's luggage was there, and I just left it there because I didn't want to take it inside of the plane with me. And so I got it from my seat, because we still had time to pass before the flight took off. So I decided to get out, and along with some other lady, she went to go check her luggage to see if they were being boarded onto the right plane. So I get off to go look down the hallway to try to find my luggage, and I couldn't find my luggage anywhere. And I thought that was just like so interesting how I couldn't find my luggage. I was just like, what in the world? But one of the like plane assistants or whatever assured me that they actually had already grabbed my luggage to go take it to the right place, to get boarded. So I was like, oh, okay. I was just making sure. And then I think that, okay, so I was like, at the same time, I was like still trying to look for the airplane mode setting on my phone. And hold on, I think someone saw, okay, that's what it was. So someone saw me texting on my phone because I think I was trying to text my mom or something, and someone got upset and was like, ma'am, you cannot have your phone on, this and this and that, you're supposed to have your airplane mode on or whatever. And so I was like, I understand, I apologize. So I ended up just like turning my phone off in my dream, which is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And very symbolic of me turning my phone off. Because I couldn't find the airplane mode to switch my phone on for some odd reason. And so, I find my way, or hold on, let me see. So yeah, after being informed that my luggage was like one of the first bags that they grabbed apparently to board onto the plane. So I was like, okay, I was just double checking. Now I can go sit down and relax. And what's weird is that I saw a clock, I just saw a clock. Sorry, okay, so I'm like, oh my gosh, my notes are everywhere. I'm like trying to read my notes and then also like trying to remember more details of this dream. So I actually ended up, as I was saying this part of my dream on my notes, I look at the TV screen again and I saw a clock and it said 12 hours on this little clip as I'm talking. So 12, the Lord has been speaking to me by 12s this whole entire journey, like literally this whole entire journey, concerning Genesis 12 and all this other stuff. So as I'm walking back inside the plane, I could see that this little cafeteria thing, and I saw this other area where there was like luggages and more bags, and then I looked down and I could see them underneath me loading the plane. And I freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, this is where they board the coffins. So, backstory, my dad actually used to work for an airline company like a couple years ago, maybe. When he moved back to California a couple years ago, he worked for an airline company boarding people's luggages, so he was like one of those guys that would board the plane, and he would tell me all these crazy stories and say that, they actually, people don't even really notice or realize, but they, board all sorts of things on the plane, including coffins for funeral, people, yeah. And, my dad would tell me these stories, which this kind of has more of a backstory. I actually used to be terrified of, coffins and funerals, and which I still kind of am. And I guess that's kind of why in my dream, I looked down and I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh. And I literally think I ended up seeing one of the coffins, like barely poking out from where I was standing. And it just freaked me out, to know that on the plane, in the luggage area where, everyone's luggages are and stuff like that, that there's also dead people on the plane. So it's just like the whole thought is just freaky to me, And so going into like the backstory, I used to actually have nightmares from the time that I'm going to say it started around the time that I was like 10 is when I experienced my very first funeral of a, I guess they were like family friends of my parents, because my parents were involved in ministry, and she was one of the church ladies, and all this other stuff. So that was my first experience, and it was very traumatizing for me as a 10-year-old because, that was my first exposure to death and all of that stuff. And it just, I don't know, I had a very intense, one of these days I'll share more of my testimony, but I used to be tormented, like literally tormented, at just anything that had to do with death. I had a very strong fear of death and everything that had to do with death and dying and funerals and coffins. Like, I would literally have nightmares of coffins and dead people and all this other stuff. So anyways, going back to my dream, I just had to add that in there because that part would not have made sense, as so just the thought of me like, oh my gosh, there's like a coffin that I see already down there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, in my dream, and so one of the guys comes to me and he's like, ma'am, can you please take your seat? We're about to get ready to go, and we got to do our protocols to take off. And so I went back to my seat, and then I woke up from the dream. And so then I added here in my notes, because I forgot to mention that in the first dream that I had, because this was a 2-part dream. The first part of my dream ended up continuing from the second part. So that's how I know that this is the Lord speaking to me about the timing of this dream, that this dream is like a right now thing. Because I haven't had a double dream like that in a long time. I used to have double dreams all the time, but it's very, very rare where I have dreams where they continue like that. So anyway, going back to the first dream, because I didn't even get to put all this down on my notes. So in my first dream, when I was looking for my flight, I look out of the window on the other side of the airport, and there was a massive earthquake. And well, here's the thing, I don't know if it was an earthquake or if there was some sort of terrorist attack, because half of the airport on the other side, not where I was, but it was on the other side of the building, it starts collapsing. And I happened to notice that there was this ocean. And so people, the building was collapsing in the ocean, and people were screaming and falling into the water. It was just chaos. And then I happened to notice over where I was standing that people were hurt and sliding off. People were literally sliding off into the water and screaming. So it was kind of just, what in the world is going on? It was literally a movie in this part of my dream, because I could see people just flying off the railing into the water, and someone came to grab me, and I don't know, it was just there was just so much happening. And at first I thought it was a rescue team in the form of a helicopter. It was just so weird. I really don't know why that was in the part of my dream. Have no idea. All right, sometimes my dreams just be I don't know. But yeah, I remembered. I was how did I end up here? What? I was at the airport, and then now I'm being whisked away from all the chaos by some weird looking man, literally jungle looking man. It was just weird. Okay. And I think that's when I woke up from that first dream. So yeah. Oh my gosh, you see, you guys, I'm all over the place, because also in my first dream, so I think a lot happened before I actually got to board my plane. In my first dream, there was all this preparation, this chaos that broke out with the airport, I don't know if it was a terrorist attack, earthquake, I don't know. But I also happened to remember that before I was like going through all these security checks, right? It was like right after I went through the surgery room with all the surgeons. I come out of the room and there's this man that was a security guy there, but he also looked like one of the pastors of the church that we was attending during the time of my pregnancy with my third baby. And I'm like, do you think you can check my bag to make sure that I don't have anything in here that is going to get me in trouble, like with security here at the airport? And it was just so weird because at this part of my dream, after the security check, and I'm like asking the man, like, can you check my bag? I happened to notice that my ex-husband was standing next to me at this part and point in my dream where I'm having the security guy, just in case, double check my bag. Well, he checks my bag, the security guy, and immediately finds a pocket knife with a corkscrew. And I'm like, what? How did this get in here? And then he starts digging more in my bag and he starts pulling out, you guys, I'm not even kidding, he starts pulling out all of these like pocket knives. He found like all these different tools and like things that you're not supposed to carry into an airport. Okay, you are not supposed to carry a pocket knife or any kind of weapon at all. But I was finding like these pocket knives, these like bottle openers with the corkscrew, and I was just like, how in the world did these things even end up in my bag? Because I was like, I swear that I checked my bag. But last minute I decided to ask the security guy that resembled this other pastor. I was like, what? This is just so weird. But I happened to notice, I looked at my ex-husband and I was like, first of all, what is he even doing here? Why is he even here? Because he was not with me. He just appeared at that point and part in my dream. So I was just like really frustrated. And I happened to notice this smug look on his face, as if he was guilty for sneaking those things into my bag when I was not aware. That's exactly what happened in my dream. Is that God showed me that he was the one that was trying to sabotage me and prevent me from getting to my plane to get to my destination. And the thing about it, you guys, is that if you have anything of those things, those tools or whatever that was in my bag, they kick you out of the airport, period. The security guys, they escort you out of the airport, so you're not even allowed to go onto your plane at all. Like, you get kicked out. And that's what he was trying to do. But thank God that in my dream, I had the security guy check before I arrived at the airport the very next day. So that was all in my first dream. The second dream, which continued, was the one that I just shared. And, it was just, yeah. So, all in all, let me see, where was I? So yeah, I was just relieved that at the end of my dream, the plane was about to take off. Like, literally, the intercom, like, you could literally hear the captain turning on all of the switches and, like, putting the wheels up. Like, literally, you guys, we were getting ready for actual takeoff in my dream before I woke up. So here's what I feel is like going on. Like this dream, you guys, not only is it super prophetic, okay, but it is so symbolic of the entire journey and process that the Lord has had me to be on. Because in my dream, that's exactly, the Lord showed me exactly what has been taking place in my life these last 4 years. 4 years. Where I have had to do all this preparation. The Lord has had me in a process. I've had to be under just such severe, intense conditions, literally, moving from place to place, not having a stable, just everything's just been shaken, okay? Like it's been so just unpredictable in every which way. The only time that we had some sense of predictability, which not really, because when we first moved here to Dallas, okay, when we first got here, oh my gosh, I just realized how long I've been recording, and it's like 45 minutes long. So let me just end it here, because this was super duper long. Basically Laura was just like showing me in my dream, like that I'm getting ready to finally enter into the promised land, and that I made it. Like the Lord showed me in my dream, very intense dream, just the chaos that has been surrounding my elevation, the warfare, the attacks, which kind of explains the terrorist attack or the earthquake in the first part of my dream, where I had happened to look out of the window and I see across the way that there's like all these things taking place. And so it's like all of the warfare, all of the things, surrounding me. But it has not actually touched me. Like the Lord has sent his angels to protect me. And I just so symbolic of this whole journey that, this thing that the Lord has had me on has been specifically for me, like getting me ready, getting me prepared for destiny and for purpose and for the things that I know that the Lord is going to be ushering me into. And to confirm all of this, to just put the cherry on top of this dream, the Lord confirmed his very word that he spoke to me regarding the scripture that he gave to me. This was all like correlating to this dream about me getting ready to take off and me finally making it onto my plane. Oh, and by the way, you guys, okay, let me just add this. I knew this was going to be long. Let me just add this because this is now my second dream regarding me getting on an airplane within the last, I'm going to say, everything and everyone was like trying to prevent me from getting onto my flight. There was like sabotage. These girls were like sabotaging me, like all kinds of stuff. So in that dream, I never even got to make it to my airplane. But in this dream, I made it on time. I passed through all of the security checks. I was ready, I was prepared, and I was on time. And I was more so on time that I had extra time to spare. So that's pretty much it, you guys. That is all I just wanted to share. I dream and be able to post it on here because I know that this is not just a personal word, but this is more of like a corporate, because there's a lot of God's people that are getting ready to take off and to take flight into the promised land, into those promises that the Lord has spoken over, not only my life, but, whoever may be listening. If God has called you for such a time as this, because this is not for everybody. Let me just make that clear. Because I know some people like to claim words that is not for them. So that's why you have to know your place, know your season, know the season that you're in with God. Because, you know, a wicked person could be listening to this voice memo and think that this word, a blessing, is for them, and it's not. Because I know a lot of narcissistic people, they like to pretend like these prophetic words are for them, and they're not. You know, because a narcissist person, they just have a very different, it's not normal. I'll just say that. It's not normal of the way that they operate. It's not normal of the way that they think. They're very self-entitled. They are entitled individuals where they walk around feeling superior and feeling like the whole world owes them. Okay? So, anyways, I think I'm done. I'm going to try to go back to sleep before these kids wake up in the morning. It is 8:17 a.m. and today is, oh my gosh, January 29th. So, Monday, January 29th. Oh, and the clock just turned 8:18. So, that's it, you guys. I just wanted to share that again because the Lord just really encouraged me by giving me that dream. You know, that just confirms everything that He's been speaking to me. You know, and when the Lord speaks, He confirms His words that He speaks through dreams, through visions, through signs, through wonders, through, you know, His prophets, through anything that He wants. Honestly, anything that He wants to get His point across, He will use it. And that's just what He's done for me through this dream. So, oh, and then, oh my gosh, one more thing, I promise. One more thing. And then I promise I'll get off of here. Oh my gosh, Lord. I know. I know. So, last night at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I ended up listening and coming across this quick prophetic word. It was like literally 10 minutes long, but it was so much power. And I literally cried because, again, this was more confirmation that the Lord was just giving to me about my airplane dream. Being at the airport, getting to my plane, passing all of the tests, you know, going through the extensive, you know, the whole surgery room part. That's so metaphoric and symbolic of the spiritual surgery that I've been in and that I've been under, and I've had to just yield to that process, no matter how painful it has been. You know, where the Lord had actually, this confirms one of the visions that He gave to me at the start of 2022, and the Lord showed me that this was going to be a year of Him performing spiritual surgery, where He was going to be removing things from out of my life that was causing me internal bleeding. That's what He showed me. He actually showed me when I was in my prayer closet in deep prayer concerning, you know, this was like at the start of me like getting ready to make my preparations to divorce my ex-husband. You know, because I had already previously multiple times filed for divorce. But this time I just knew in my heart of hearts that this was it. This was it. It was over. There was nothing else. No more praying about it. No more fasting about it. And so the Lord gave me a vision in my prayer closet as I was just on the floor weeping because I was just hurting. You guys, I was so broken. Like my marriage, you know, as much as I wanted to save it, the Lord was like, this is not for you to save. And that's why He led me to do. So that's going to be a whole nother voice memo. But anyway, so yeah, this vision, the Lord showed me, literally showed me on the operating table, very vividly Okay, it was almost like my C-section, where the Lord's hands was opening me up, and I saw him pull out a massive looking, black looking, tumor looking thing that was like attached to my vital organs, and he had to remove it carefully and slowly and intricately, because if you try to move it out all at once, I was probably going to die, like internal bleeding or something like that. So he showed me in this vision, this is what I am having to do regarding the counterfeit marriage that I had found myself in. Because yes, that's what it was. That's what it is. It was a counterfeit. It was not what God had ordained for my life. It was what I thought. It was what I was led by my flesh to do. So anyways, wow, you guys. Okay, I promise that's it. I'm done. I'm already at 56 minutes, maybe more. This was really long. I don't even know if this is going to be uploaded all onto YouTube. I don't know if it'll let me. We'll see. So thank you guys for listening. I can't wait to be doing more voice recordings like this, because I just really feel, I don't know. I like this much better rather than having to like show my face. I don't know. Okay. Well, that's it, you guys. Love y'all. Bye.